The 1984 Sikh Massacre explained by Survivor. Let's get to it.
A lot of gratitude towards the Sikh community for the protection, honestly, that the Sikh community has given the rest of India and for the sense of warriorship. I don't know if I'm finding the right words, honestly, but I know that the emotion was conveyed. But there is a narrative like this.
So I must admit that, I left as a very young man. I'm going to give a personal angle to this now because you just invoked a feeling, right? And a memory. 84 happened. I was here. I was 11 and a half years old.
Damn.
And I remember what happened in Jhansi and what happened in Punjab because I was actually in Punjab during June and November. This is when attack on Golden Temple and genocidal campaign, which now Indian courts have finally accepted, including a Delhi court. I was very angry young man. At 12, you remember everything. I remember who protected us too. I'm here sitting here because not my next door neighbor, but the guy who lived this third house down, Bhagwan Das, because he took us into his house. I would have been dead that day.
Wow.
Mob mentalities, many things happen, right?
I'm sorry, I'm cutting you. Feel free to share the experience. Just so there's a lot of young listeners, give them context.
So before he starts, I can't I'm trying to put I'm trying to put myself in his shoes as an 11-year-old child witnessing the genocide happen. I don't know how in the world I would have survived. I would have froze. I would not know what to do. Holy.
Things happened in 84. There's a reaction from the government and the people. I'll share this part, right? So I am a angry young man and I have a perspective on what has happened. I don't know what to do with it. In fact, for the next 10 years, when I left this country, I said, I'm never going to come back.
Wow.
I could have been that guy who picks up the AK-47. That's the honest truth. I was very angry as to what had happened. At the same time, when I came back here, I came back, I think in 96 or 97, after going through my engineerings and learning, dealing with my own trauma, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be in education. I gotta channelize this anger.
Wow.
I have to deal with the conscience of what has happened, of Indian conscience, because my friends are Hindus too. It's not about a Hindu-Sikh thing. That's the narrative which plays out. It's not. It really is a government thing, and Sikh DNA thinks like that from Guru Nanak period onwards. Doesn't matter who's at the center or the power centers is what I mean. And, when I came back, I'll just share that. I had no reason to go back to Jhansi. I landed in Delhi in 96 because I wanted to go study about languages of Guru Granth Sahib. But I took the train, I went to Jhansi for a day to meet Bhagwan Das. Because I know I'm alive because of him.
Wow.
I know what they did to him next day in the market. People were not very happy with him that he protected us. But that's a human issue, right? What I'm sharing with you is that it took me 10 plus years just to think about what to do with this. You have to channelize your angers. And then I realized, look, hatred is never the thing. We talk about this, but you go through your own journey of it. I didn't hate India or Hindus. In fact, sometimes people ask me, do you hate India? I'm like, no, how can I do that? I don't think any Sikh can. There's no such thing. But you must understand what has happened and how there hasn't been a reparation. There hasn't been a discourse on how to correct it. And any psychologist will tell you, even when you lose in a bad breakup between, even as a girlfriend, boyfriend, and if it's an ugly breakup, a violent one, you need help. It must be addressed. So that addressing kind of consciousness hasn't happened, but Sikh narrative believes in that. Sikh narrative is never about vengeance. No Guru Granth Sahib doesn't even have the word badla. I know some Sikhs use it, but it's because they're angry. But Guru Granth Sahib's language has the word justice in it, nyaya. And that's why Sikhs are very big on it every time. Doesn't matter which country they live in, they'll become politically active because they read Bani, and Bani says, connect with the divine, always fight for justice. In America, I'm just connecting the dot. 100 years ago in America, there's a Sikh man who goes all the way to Supreme Court 3 times, US Supreme Court, fighting to be recognized as a citizen of America. Bhagat Singh Thind is his name. He was a soldier and a spiritualist who wrote books on things. He went to represent America as a soldier. Even there, people said things like, no, I should be a citizen. How come only whites are allowed to vote? So that's in the DNA. That DNA comes from Shabad, Guru Granth Sahib, and it asks us to fight for justice, regardless of the circumstances. And I like to say, justice is not just us. This is why Sikhs don't have an issue doing that for others. That's how we are trained. That's how we are trained. But when you're fighting your own battles and reparation hasn't happened internally, then you become small, so you talk about smaller things. And I think my community is going through some of that, because that addressing, there is a whole battle of trauma and memory, and it is going on. I think it is addressing some of it, but it needs a larger conversation to be addressed.
Would you like to have the larger conversation right now, a little bit? Because this is a youth-oriented show.
Sure.
And people are all ears, honestly. There are good and bad people in every faith.
Oh, I subscribe to that.
Yeah.
I'm interested in, the worst of the people.
Yeah.
They also have a conscience, man. It's how we approach.
Yeah.
In the right circumstances, in the right conversation, things can be powerful.
Yeah. I'd actually like to know, and I don't think I've met a Sikh who's as capable as you are in terms of speaking up for the community, because of your understanding of the faith, of the history. And I know that you have knowledge about multiple subjects. It's also why I'm asking you that what is the word of the Sikh community right now? In terms of you're saying there's unaddressed things, I'd actually like to know what you feel is unaddressed on a public platform like this.
Sure. Sikh community, we can't go back too far, but let's say since 47, there have been issues. There were promises made by Congress, All Indian National Congress, not the Congress party of today, which represented India. They never got fulfilled. People don't realize. I didn't know these things. Look, I grew up writing, Father of the Nation essays just like anyone else in this country. And it is my formative years in college when I'm dealing with my own learning and getting rid of my anger, but channelizing into, I realize what are the issues, And there are actual unaddressed issues. Even yesterday, I'll be honest, I was sitting in a plane, I picked up a newspaper, scanning through it, and I'm reading a column, Swami Onyx, I'm sure you're aware of it. It's calling for people like KPS Gill and Bayad Singh to be brought back to Punjab. I'm like, seriously? Those were serious human rights violations from every angle.
You'll have to give a little context here also.
Sure. I'm saying, so Punjab went through militancy period. And during militancy, there were several human rights violations. They're unaddressed. National Human Rights Commission, national, not just Punjab, has so many cases pending as to what happened with the Sikhs in Punjab. The Rajya Sabha members are non-Sikh ones. I.K. Gujral's son has stood there in the parliament and said, how come we don't know more about June 84, the attack when it happened on the Darbar Sahib complex? Sikhs have been talking about it. Why is government not coming up and saying what really happened? So grievances have to do with, Punjab issues, riparian water issues. They show up in the news with a very different tint, but they are pending. There's whole 84 things when attack happened. Sure, there are people who disagreed with it, but one is a state's responsibility.
So is the community expecting an official apology from the government?
There have been apologies, but I have my own take, and community has never accepted them, by the way, because they are. You Google today, what is a genuine apology? That has never happened. There are issues. There are people on national political scene even today who have been cited by non-Sikhs as directing the violence. Again, we are not saying Suli pe chada do. We're saying, come on, it's on your face right now. And this is from a community, who has been called Gaddar so many times, Dude, Sikhs have done everything for India. Sikhs don't hate India. This is a wrong narrative.
We wouldn't have India if it wasn't for Sikhs, honestly.
You know who said that? A Muslim writer has written that, not even a Hindu writer. His name is Allah Yar Khan Jogi. I want to give you the direct line. I went to locate him, his descendants in Lahore. He wrote that. He wrote it in the context of because Guru Gobind Singh fought with the atrocities of some Muslims who were converting India forcefully, right? So this is not anti-Muslim sentiment because a Muslim guy wrote himself. He in praise of Guru Gobind Singh, and he writes that Agar na hote Gobind Singh sunnat hoti sabki. It's Allah Yar Khan Jogi writing it on a long poem called Shahidan-e-Wafa. So, what we have done is we have made it about Hindu, Muslim, or a Mughal, or a Hindu hill chief Rajas. It's nothing like that. That's when you create an oversimplification because you don't want to deal with issues. So it's called diversions, right? I mean, and kindergarten teachers do this all the time. When you don't want to engage with something, you divert their attention towards something else. That's what we keep doing. So Sikh community has legitimate grievances. In fact, Ambassador K.C. Singh, though people may know him, he's a former ambassador. He wrote a column on this. He's like, Indian External Affairs Ministry keeps saying Khalistan word on certain conversation. Diaspora Sikhs are doing this. Okay, they're doing whatever they're doing. What have we done to repair? That's the question at a state level, right? There always will be varieties of opinion on everything.
What I do wish to say is that I know 200% that at least people my age and younger, and maybe a little older as well. I'm 93 born, so I would go up to like people born in the 80s and 90s. There's a very deep sense of gratitude towards the Sikh community.
Yeah.
Especially when you talk about urban centers. Yeah. I can't speak for small town India because I'm not from small town India.
No, there is. That's where our conversation started. I actually saw that in the last 2 years more. If I may say this, I'm a very avid reader and I observe a lot. I read a lot. I watch a lot, even the things I don't like, because you have to see where the conversations are taking place. I can tell you, nothing Sikh community did as a PR or as a work with the government changed the image of the Sikhs since 84. Nothing did. Wow. And I don't know if you know, the government in 84 had hired a company to do a negative campaign on Sikhs globally. It's called Rediffusion, which became Rediffmail eventually. Yes, it was from Bombay. I'm very aware of it. I have those documents which I have seen.
As in the same company became Rediff.
Yeah, Rediffmail eventually.
Like Rediff.com.
Yeah, but it used to be Rediffusion. That level of campaign was run against the Sikhs.
Wow.
Okay? Sikhs have been trying, right, in multiple ways. Nothing was working. You know what changed? No Sikh political party did anything. No Sikh organization did anything. The individual response in last 2 years, average Indian thinks ki nahi Sikh theek hai. There was no leadership in farmers' protests and stuff, right? Take the politics aside for that. I'm just talking about image. Actually, image in India changed for the first time since 84 because what India saw on average Sikh. And the Indians said, कि नहीं फिर ये तो मैं भी हूँ ये तो ठीक कर रहे हैं whatever the politics might be that aside. So and that's the Sikh story, by the way. That's why I'm mentioning it. Sikhs never used to talk about what they do and who they are. We just did it. Others talked about it. That's part of the humility culture which was presented from Guru Nanak onward. No, we're not going to talk about our own story.
What do you think about the narrative now as a Sikh?
I have trouble with it. I have trouble with the narrative from the Sikh community. Now we tell the world who Sikhs are. That's why if you notice when you ask me, I try to go back to the Gurus or the Gurbani. Our job is to become a lover. A warrior who's a lover as well, right? Just to call us warriors is very problematic. And I'll tell you why. One of the most famous images of Sikhs in the post-Guru period is Baba Deep Singh, a headless warrior fighting to defend Golden Temple complex. Now, what people don't know, he did that at the age of 82. From 24 to 82, he's a scholar. At the age of 24, he comes to meet Guru Gobind Singh. He gets trained by him. He becomes a scribe. He's interpreting the text. He becomes not just the primary text, but the secondary text. But he's equally prepared to fight, and the world had never seen a scholar can fight like this. But look what Sikh narrative has done. They made him just a warrior. No, we are not warriors. We are poets, we are lovers who can also fight. So the Sikh narrative really is, I don't decide what I will do. This is based out of Gurbani, right? Guru Granth Sahib. My work is I should. There's a Professor Puran Singh writer. He writes this in English, so I'll just quote him. He says, when I was not in love, I thought I was in love with the divine. I was very active. But now I've actually gone deeper in myself. What I realize is I don't get to decide how to serve the community. I need to be prepared to play the reed, flute, or to pick up the sword, whatever is needed. That's the Sikh narrative. And Sikhs did this. Our Ragi would fight. People hadn't seen that. The musicians will fight. Our scholars used to fight because the world hadn't seen it. And they're like, how is this possible? Because we were inspired by that Shabad, that Gyan Khadag. Gyan and Khadag are not separate things for Sikhs. In our DNA from Guru Nanak onwards, they're together. And when Sikhs are separating it themselves, you'll see that's why there is a disharmony within the community as well.
So if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to TRS Clips for more.
Okay, now I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to understand why the Sikh community is so important, why they fight for their name. Because it's a community that has been traumatized, been put through a lot, man. And I could relate to this because my family, I also went through, similar thing where they went through a genocide where their parents didn't make it. It's wow. That's crazy. Wow. Damn.